Thank you, Charles. Now, let's move on then to European defence. And, Ursula von der Leyen is frankly off her head. I mean, really insane, actually. So allow me to demonstrate. Yesterday, she was speaking to military cadets in Denmark about the future of war in Europe. And she announced what she called Readiness 2030, because 2030, as we've mentioned already, is a key deadline year for everyone. So she announced 4 priorities for Readiness 2030: a surge in defence spending with up to 800 billion euros. We talked about that over the last couple of weeks. This is her plan. And then we've got pan-European cooperation was the next thing she was talking. That includes military mobility, which is what they describe as a functioning EU-wide network of land corridors, airports and seaports to facilitate the fast transportation of troops and military equipment. They don't call it this, but let's call it the Russian front, because that's what it's all about. They're talking about, or she's talking about, what she's calling a porcupine strategy for Ukraine, whatever that means. And maybe she means it's going to be so bristling with missiles that it's dangerous to touch it or something. She talked about setting up a joint task force with Ukraine. And finally, she talked about the other feature of European Defence Union that we've been talking about for a long time, which was an EU-wide market for defence equipment and a single point procurement process. So this is the defence union that we've been warning about for 15 years, and the war danger that comes with it is absolutely there for everyone to see. So how was she justifying this? Well, first of all, she had something to say about Greenland. Let's have a listen.
Europe must get ready for war. I'm, of course, talking about the ongoing war in Ukraine and conflicts in other theaters, but also the repeated and continued attacks on critical infrastructure in the Baltic Sea. And, of course, the ongoing competition for influence in the Arctic region, including Greenland. And to all the people of Greenland and of Denmark as a whole, I want to be very clear that Europe will always stand for sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Sovereignty and territorial integrity was something they were talking about with respect to Ukraine. Now they're talking about with respect to Greenland. Is their intention to seriously, face off against the United States? I don't know, but this is unhinged language that she's using. She went on to talk about Trump's desire to reorient to China.
Just take Russia. We already know its determination to deny other countries their right to choose their own path. And now Russia is on an irreversible path to creating a pure war economy. It has massively expanded its military-industrial production capacity. 40% of the federal budget is spent on defense, 9% of its GDP. And this investment fuels its war of aggression in Ukraine while preparing it for future confrontation with European democracies. And just as these threats increase, we see our oldest partner, the United States, move their focus to the Indo-Pacific.
So we're going to talk about this much, much more in Extra, I'm quite sure. But let's just listen to a final clip, because she's absolutely determined. I mean, obviously what Trump is doing here is justifying this move towards military integration in Europe. Let's listen to why her comments about when the European Union should act.
The point is that we must see the world as it is, and we must act immediately to face up to it, because a new international order will be formed in the second half of this decade and beyond. So as we stand here today, Europe faces a fundamental choice about its future. Do we keep reacting to each challenge in an incremental and cautious way? Or are we ready to grasp this opportunity to build a more secure Europe, one that is prosperous, free and ready, willing and able to defend itself? Dear cadets, the answer is clear. The choice is none. Europe is ready to step up. We are ready to take control of the change that is inevitable, because we cannot afford to be pushed around by history. And that means acting now is a must.
So we've got to act now. Now, just to clarify, the jump cuts that were in those 3 video clips, I wasn't cutting any words out of that. I was cutting out silences. So it was just to slightly compress the time that she said those words, but the words were in the order that she gave them. But in the meantime, as we've been reporting for a couple of weeks, and Jobs was reporting on this again on Monday, Germany has been subverting its own constitution in order to enable Starmer and von der Leyen to enable their war policy. Well, yesterday it actually did it. So a 2/3 majority in the Bundestag voted to allow these huge increases in defense and infrastructure spending. And this, of course, is going to exempt spending on war from Germany's otherwise strict debt rules. And it's going to create out of nothing something like 500 billion euros of a war fund. The question now, or the question of whether to go ahead with this, now moves to the upper house, the Bundesrat, which needs to approve the deal also by a 2/3 majority before it actually becomes law. And that vote is going to happen on Friday. But as Patrick has been reporting, the incoming Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, proposed these measures immediately following his election win in a 180-degree reversal of the policy he campaigned on. So, this is wrong in so many levels, as far as I can see. But finally, on this topic for now, Kaja Kallas, who is the equivalent of the EU foreign minister, the special representative, was in the UK this week to meet with John Healey, who's the Secretary of State for War, and David Lammy, who's the Foreign Secretary. Let's listen to what Healey and Kallas had to say.
Kaya, welcome. This is a time when the demands of the moment mean European partners must come together, recognising the NATO as our cornerstone of European security, but we need to do more. You in the Commission and the European Union are stepping up just as we are in the UK. We must step up together on European security, on defence spending, and on reinforcing our industrial bases.
And to add to that, it is more defence spending. How can we do more, but also how we can spend the money more cleverly? I mean, the new technologies, what could be their innovation and capabilities that we can develop further so that we could have European security in really strong hands.
Exactly so, and I think we can learn from what we have been involved in with supporting Ukraine, can't we? We need our European defence industries to be able to innovate at a wartime pace. We need to make sure that what we spend on defence also drives economic growth.
Exactly.
But on Ukraine now is also the time when we must maintain our strong support for Ukraine. We must not jeopardise the peace by forgetting about the war, and we will together reinforce our efforts to secure that peace.
Because European security starts with Ukraine right now, and that's why we need to support them to be able to defend themselves. So thank you very much for these discussions.
Thank you.
Vanessa, these people are off their heads.
That wasn't scripted at all. I mean, just listening to them is like I'm in the Truman Show or something. It's so disconnected from reality. It's quite incredible. Sorry, I'm a bit speechless actually on this one.
Yeah, well, move on with it because we've got more here from you on UK and EU cooperation.